I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Ike's second, Brandon Levey, who was a former president of the University of Maryland SSDP chapter, and one of my best friends. Really such a superhero. Everyone should talk to him afterwards. Brandon Levey, give it up.
I don't think I ever had an introduction like that, so thank you, Arena. I actually just came back from meeting with my state senator in his office today, and we talked about drugs. He told me that he thinks drugs should be legalized and regulated, which was a huge surprise. I had no idea that he was for that. And you know, really just a couple years ago, until I got involved in SSDP, I had no idea that this is what I'd be doing, that I'd be meeting with my state senator talking about drugs. So I just want to, for a couple minutes, talk about how SSDP really changed my life. When I was younger, I was a bit of a political nerd. I traveled alone to Iowa for the Dean campaign in 9th grade, and after high school I took a year and a half off where I worked for Obama as a political organizer in New Hampshire. And then after the election, I came to UMD. And I wanted to spend some time doing something where I felt empowered. I felt like I really was making a difference. And I wanted to be with like-minded students making real change, not only on campus, but really around the world. So I went to some meetings, I went to the Young Democrats, I went to the sustainability clubs, and they were great, they do some great things, but it really seemed to me that most of those clubs had people that were doing it so they had a resume booster, so they could go to graduate school, they could get a job afterwards, and they could just have it on their resume. And then I stumbled into an SSDP meeting, a Student Successful Drug Policy meeting, and Irina was the head at the time. Not used to speaking in a microphone, sorry. But there was something really different in SSDP that I didn't find in other groups. Parenthetically, a few people, especially freshmen, they come to the first meeting of SSDP, and they hear the word drug in the name. They have no idea what SSDP does, they're just coming right out of high school. They weren't at their high school, they didn't have a chapter, obviously. And they expect they're coming to a meeting where they can score some drugs. You know, you hear like the, hey man, do you know where to get some bud? Very occasionally, I think less and less often. SSDP is just becoming better and better known now. But they rather quickly realize their error, and they find that SSDP is not a place like that. Instead, it's really an organization that gets things done, things that make a positive difference in people's lives and our society as a whole. And just from passing life-saving Good Samaritan policies on campuses, such as UMD last year. Or I mean, even expanding now with our entire states, such as Connecticut, New York, Washington State, New Mexico, and others, hopefully in the next year, hopefully Maryland this coming year. And then also raising awareness about failed drug laws, setting up huge demonstrations on our campus, getting much local and regional media coverage, which I was a part of, which was a really cool experience at UMD. To successfully lobbying for a rollback of the crack cocaine disparity. SSDP really is a successful organization that really changed my life. Ever since Irina convinced me to attend the DBA and SSDP conferences 2 years ago, and last year, and earlier this year as well. I know I really couldn't have afforded those conferences if SSDP did not help me go to them. And I was convinced it was a cause that I wanted to get involved in. I learned that the American-led drug war negatively affects literally everyone. Drug users, non-drug users, white, black, rich, poor, foreigners, and citizens of the U.S., pretty much every demographic group, and negatively affects everything. Science, education, the environment, the economy, the criminal justice system, and more. And the fact is stereotypes almost always have a semblance of truth to them. And the stereotype that my generation, and our generation, I guess, is largely apathetic is no exception. Just a small anecdote, last week, on my first day of the last year of college, we went around the room in a seminar on activism in the 1900s to discuss our own personal activism. And the answers from others in the class, most of whom actually were seniors, ranged from like, I attended John Stewart's rally, or I recycle. It was really, really sad. But you know, SSDP and our chapter members at UMD and really around the country and now around the world, really, that is an exception. For me personally, I went from finding drug policy mildly interesting to becoming the co-president of our campus chapter. Because of the amazing way that SSDP, as a primarily student-led organization, empowers students to get involved and make change. SSDP, as I'm sure most of you guys know here, it really isn't a group where some old guy in a suit in an office is telling students what campaigns to work on. And no offense to like any old guys in suits here, but rather we're students are the ones making those decisions. I mean, even the board of directors is 2/3 run by students, and the other third is appointed by students. So, yeah, the organization has clout. Earlier today, I had a really productive meeting with my state senator, and he was really impressed with SSDP's accomplishments, and hopefully will help us move forward with the Good Samaritan policy this coming year. So, really with the continued support of each and every one of you, we're making a difference, and we're really fueling the future of drug policy reform. And you have my sincere thanks. And now I get the honor of introducing one of my personal heroes, Stacia Posner, who was a UMD SSDP chapter member and the chapter president, and now is the associate director of SSDP.